Hello and welcome to today's video. We're going to dive into the current situation in Russia and examine the role that oil and gas play in the nation's stability. From the Soviet Union's rise to dominance and eventual collapse to Russia's current predicament, we'll look at how their reliance on these commodities has both propelled and hindered their growth. As the successor state of the Soviet Union, Russia inherited a great deal from its predecessors, including its dominance in the energy field, with massive oil and gas fields, pipelines, and being one of the top 3 crude producers in the world. Russia has established itself as a global energy superpower. In fact, they produce around 6% of the world's total oil supply, making them a force to be reckoned with in the energy industry. As we all know, Russia is one of the largest producers of fossil fuels in the world. They have relied heavily on oil and gas exports to fuel their economy for many years now. However, this over-reliance has also created several challenges for the country. Firstly, with its economy being so closely tied to the sale of these fossil fuels, Russia's GDP and domestic spending can be significantly impacted whenever oil prices drop or if its exporters face competition from other players in the market. This puts Russia in a very vulnerable position, where their income and financial stability is constantly at the mercy of the prices of oil and gas. They are, in a way, at the mercy of the global oil market, which can be volatile and subject to sudden changes. This can lead to economic instability and uncertainty, making it challenging for the country to plan for the future and invest in long-term projects. It is worth considering that as the world moves towards renewable energy sources, Russia may find it increasingly difficult to maintain its position as a leading exporter of fossil fuels. This is a challenge that they will need to address and find ways to adapt in order to maintain their economic competitiveness and stability in the future. So, while Russia's reliance on fossil fuels has been a source of strength in the past, it is also a potential weakness that needs to be addressed. With the right strategies and investments, Russia can continue to thrive as a major player in the global energy market, while also ensuring that their economy is less vulnerable to the ups and downs of the oil and gas market. Despite having a wealth of natural resources at its disposal, Russia has not pursued the same level of economic diversification as other nations, such as Saudi Arabia. This has resulted in an over-reliance on the export of fossil fuels, with oil and gas accounting for a significant portion of the nation's economic output. This leaves Russia vulnerable to fluctuations in the global energy market, which can cause significant disruptions to the nation's economic stability. In fact, many experts argue that Russia's economic problems stem directly from this over-reliance on oil and gas. With the world moving towards cleaner and more sustainable energy sources, this could spell trouble for Russia in the long term. As such, it is important for Russia to start thinking about how it can diversify its economy and reduce its dependence on fossil fuels. The impact of Russia's actions in Ukraine is not just felt in the political arena, but it is also reverberating throughout its economy. The European Union, which is one of the largest consumers of Russian hydrocarbons, has imposed heavy sanctions on all things Russian in response to the crisis in Ukraine. These sanctions have caused many European countries to begin phasing out the use of Russian oil and gas, which will have a devastating effect on Russia's revenue. It is estimated that these sanctions could result in a decrease of almost half of the country's budgetary income. This sudden reduction in income could force Russia to rely solely on Asian markets for its energy exports, which could lead to new economic challenges and domestic issues for the country. This creates a perfect storm for Russia, as the country's main sources of income, oil and gas exports, are being heavily impacted. The sanctions and restrictions put in place by Europe and the U.S. are having a major impact on the country's economy, and with the addition of new climate rules, it's clear that the future of the Russian economy is uncertain. This has led to a great deal of anxiety among the Russian people, as they are beginning to feel the effects of the country's over-reliance on fossil fuels. With so much of the nation's budget relying on oil and gas exports, Russia is becoming increasingly vulnerable to fluctuations in the global energy market. In the face of these challenges, the government is being forced to consider a number of measures to mitigate the impact of the sanctions and the decline in oil prices. This could include a shift towards other industries, such as agriculture, technology, or tourism, in order to diversify the nation's economy. However, these changes take time to implement, and the nation's transition to a more sustainable economy will likely take several years. In the meantime, it is important for the Russian people to stay informed about the country's economic situation and be prepared for the potential consequences of these changes. Whether they like it or not, the future of Russia's economy is tied to the global energy market, and everyone will feel the impact of the country's over-reliance on fossil fuels. Moreover, the sanctions and penalties imposed by the EU and the US have impacted Russia's economy severely, causing a ripple effect on its citizens and businesses. With decreased profits from oil and gas, exports, and reduced investment from foreign companies, the country's economy has been struggling to keep up. The lack of diversity in Russia's economy has also put the country in a vulnerable position, making it increasingly difficult to withstand the impact of these sanctions. The decline in Russia's revenues and overall economic stability can also lead to domestic issues, such as increased poverty, unemployment, and inflation. The situation in Ukraine has also created political instability, making it difficult for Russia to attract foreign investment. The country's reputation as a safe and secure place for investment has taken a major hit, with many investors now looking towards other nations for more stability and security. This decline in investment has further hindered Russia's ability to grow and develop in its economy, putting it in a potentially difficult position for the future. Russia's actions in Ukraine have resulted in significant consequences for the country's economy and future. The decline in profits from oil and gas exports, combined with reduced foreign investment and increased sanctions, has put the nation's stability at risk. The lack of economic diversity has only compounded the problem, making it increasingly important for Russia to take steps to diversify its economy and reduce its dependence on fossil fuels. Only then can the country hope to secure a stable and prosperous future for its citizens and businesses. As a result of these policies and sanctions, Russia's economy has been heavily impacted, particularly in the energy sector. The country has had to look for new markets to sell its oil and gas, mainly focusing on Asia. However, the Asian market is not as lucrative as the European market, so Russia's revenues have still been significantly reduced. The decrease in revenue has had a knock-on effect on the country's budget and has contributed to domestic issues, as well as limiting Putin's ability to carry out his normal measures to increase oil prices. In addition to these economic challenges, the ongoing conflict in Ukraine has also had a negative impact on Russia's reputation on the international stage. The annexation of Crimea and the provision of arms to Russian separatists has been heavily criticized by the international community and has led to further sanctions and restrictions imposed on the country. In conclusion, oil and gas play a crucial role in modern Russia, serving as the centerpiece of the nation's economy. With Europe being extremely dependent on Russia for energy and Russia relying heavily on Europe for income, it's important to understand the relationship between Russia and its energy commodities. We hope that this video has provided some insight into the current situation in Russia and the role that oil and gas play in their stability. Thank you for watching today's video. We hope that you have a better understanding of the current situation in Russia and the role that oil and gas play in their stability. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more informative videos.